What's up, boys? Happy to see everybody for another episode of The Blind Pig, courtesy of bgobsession.com. For those of you watching, you'll see a new face, Tony, on the board as Enforcer.
Tony.
Has been nice enough to join us as we were running a little lean this week. And of course, anybody who's on the board, a lot of the times we like to invite people on. So special guests, we got no problems with differing opinions. That's what we make.
It's the people's podcast, man.
That's right.
Yeah, there we go.
So before we really get rolling, I'll run through the particulars. Obviously, you see us on YouTube. If you're watching us, give us a like, and follow, and a share. If not, you can catch us on any major audio podcast platform. I think we're on like 17 or something. Apple, Odyssey, Spotify, pretty much Buzzsprout, all of them. So give us a like, a share, and a follow there. And of course, jump on Facebook, Twitter, mix it up there. And of course, on bgobsession.com. Join. The more the merrier. We've seen a little bit of an influx of new members lately, so it's always cool to see some new faces. So without further ado, this is not really going to be a major structured conversation. It's going to be more of a roundtable, just current events. I got some topics, but before we get rolling on some topics, Tony, you haven't been on a podcast, so I'm curious. Daniels was the pick. We debated for weeks and weeks about the pick, and we talked till we were blue in the face about quarterbacks. So I'm curious, what's your reaction to Daniels? What was your thought going into the draft about Daniels? Is that the guy who you were kind of leaning towards, or were you a May guy, McCarthy? What's your feeling with Daniels being the guy?
Yeah, I mean, I was pumped when we drafted him, and for me, like going in, I leaned towards Daniels, just the electric way he plays, and then it was also in the SEC, so he was going up against good competition each week. But at the same time too, had they picked May or whatever, I would have just trusted Peters that he knows what he's doing, and I think it's also possible. I know people don't think it, that multiple guys can be successful. So like Daniels can succeed and May can succeed, even though in Twitterverse it doesn't. That's not possible, but
I think that's a really good point. I think too that that we as fans we don't think about like the match of what a rookie is coming into and who are the coaches and what style of player they're looking for and who's the supporting cast and how much stability is there. We don't really think about that. We tend to think like Tom Brady would have been Tom Brady no matter where he went. And I can almost guarantee you if we had drafted Tom Brady, he never would have become.
We don't have 10 rings right now, bro. I promise you that.
I feel confident in that. He might have still become a really good quarterback. But anyway, so that's the other thing. I think Jaden Daniels is a super exciting match. Whether Cliff Kingsbury stays here for a decade or a season, with what we're going to try to do, the style of play we're going to have, I think he's really exciting from that standpoint.
Yeah, I'm not going down that road again, right?
All right. So another thing, I was going to avoid this topic, but since it's been officially declared now, Tressway, of course, being Tressway, did the Tressway thing, did the captain thing, the leader thing that we all kind of expected him to do, gave his number 5 to Daniels without a fight. Obviously, we don't know what happened behind the scenes, if there was any changing of hands, but do you guys even care? Like, if Jaden Daniels was 15 instead of 5, would it have even mattered? Or like, this was a topic in local sports talk radio for the last 3 days has been, is Jaden Daniels going to get number 5? And I just thought it was way overblown.
Well, I'll admit, as I'm sure the oldest guy in the room here, quarterback numbers to me were always a really big deal. When I was growing up, quarterbacks were 12. Terry Bradshaw was quarterback. John Brody was 12. Roger Staubach was 12. And it mattered to me what the numbers were. It's important to me that Jaden is 5. If that's his identity and that's the number he's going to wear and he's comfortable in it, I can get used to 5. I mean, Donovan McNabb wore it and did okay, right, for brief periods of time. I love that Tress just did what Tress does and bought himself some goodwill. And I mean, that's just the whole team building thing, right? So now it's up to Jaden to make that his number. And I kind of look forward to referring to our quarterback for the next decade as 5. I like it.
I mean, I guess the thing to me is like, was that ever really in question? Like a guy you took with the number 2 pick in the draft that plays the most important position on the team, and the punter's not going to give him his number. I mean, I just thought there's no way in hell it's not going to happen. I mean, it was nice of Tress Way's a class act.
Well, and especially knowing Tress Way, did you really think he was ever even going to put up a fight?
Because you do hear every
Yeah.
year, right, about some obscure player who wants money, right? He wants to cash in.
Yeah.
But Tress just took that, just let the air right out of that and said, "No, man, take it. It's yours."
Mm-hmm.
They asked him, I thought this was kind of funny. They asked him, like, well, what have you thought about what number you're going to take? And he's like, well, my kid's got my jersey and he's also got McLaurin's jersey. So I figure I'm just going to snag McLaurin. That way my kid doesn't have to buy another jersey. But he had some pretty funny comments about it.
Yeah, just like you guys were saying, the way Tress Way personality comes off, and then like on when he has his show that the Commanders put up, you could tell the vibe he gives off that it wouldn't have been a problem if Jaden was like, I really want 5. Then
Well, the other interesting thing is that Tress Way wore 36 in college, so it would be kind of cool that a beloved number like 36 would end up with Tress Way. I'm just going to put that out
Can
there.
punters wear 36?
Yes, actually,
have they opened it up that far?
They were talking about on the radio, but I haven't confirmed it. But they were talking on the radio that punters can wear like 0 to like 79 or something. Like,
hey, Derek, the other thing he said was, there's a ton of 99 jerseys in storage. Maybe I'll just snatch that up.
Oh, that's great.
Are there even rules for numbers anymore? Because I feel like defensive ends were single digits now too.
I think there are, but they're not as constrictive as they used to be.
Yeah, there are rules, but it was it 2 or 3 years ago they opened it up that linebackers can wear single digits now. And then that where it got the gray area of who's a linebacker and who's a D end. You know, an edge guy could be an outside linebacker, but he's a defensive end. You know what I mean? So
So do you want to know the official answer, gentlemen? This is the podcast that teaches you everything. Quarterbacks, punters, and kickers can wear 1 to 19. Running backs, and this must be old. This is out of date. Don't listen to me.
Yes, there are rules. We just don't know what they are. We'll leave it at
that. Yeah, there are still official rules that sound like the old rules, but clearly they have because they've still got defensive linemen here wearing 50 to 79 and 90 to 99, and that hasn't been right for a while. Interesting.
The NFL has a really cool, we actually have it bookmarked on pgobsession.com. The NFL has a really cool officiating site. If you've never checked it out, if you ever want to see the exact rules now I will tell you, sometimes you're reading the exact rule and you're still like, what the hell is a catch? I still can't figure out what a catch is, but they do have the actual rules out there. I'm sure that's out there on the site if we wanted to look it up at some point.
I've got it. NFL.com has it. Quarterbacks before it was 1 to 19. Now it's 0 to 19. Punters and place kickers, it used to be 1 to 19. Now it's 0 to 49 and 90 to 99.
He could take 99.
Yep. DBs 0 to 49. Running backs, fullbacks, and H-backs 0 to 49 and 80 to 89. Tight ends. So basically anybody can wear offensive other than a lineman can wear 0 to 49. Offensive linemen can wear 50 to 79. D linemen can wear that same bracket or 90 to 99. And then linebackers, it's all over the maps. All right. Well, Tony, not to pick on you.
Before we get off the topic of Tress Way, one more thing about it. Let's a moment of acknowledgement. We're watching. I know punters don't go to the Hall of Fame, but we're looking at an all-time great Washington football player in Tress Way. He'll go down as, tell me who's a better punter in the history of our team. We're watching him a really great career.
Absolutely.
He's also a great holder, which is random, but because sometimes we've had like really bad snappers or like Cheeseman went off the rails. He's really good at holding too.
He
Yeah,
is.
he
That's
is.
true. I mean, he saved a handful of them coming
And we
up.
know this because we've never talked about him holding ever.
Well, and we
So
noticed
know
because
he's
we were all
Yeah.
being critical about the long snapper they traded up to draft, and
Yeah.
and he was saving the place kicking.
Yeah.
Well, Tony, I don't want to totally pick on you, but I will pick on you a little bit because you haven't been a part of this. But I know the answer for the three guys on this podcast. But post free agency, and now post free agency frenzy, and now post the draft. What's the one position you circle now, and is there something that we can even do to address it in this offseason? As still
One
being a need.
position. Yeah, I guess it would still be offensive tackle, just to
Mhm.
because even if Coleman works out and he can start at left tackle, say, I mean, I'm still have questions about right tackle. Like
Mhm.
with that, do you trust Wiley? And then I like Lucas too, but like he's always just been a swing. Like, can he hold up for an extended amount of games? That sort of thing. And then but then they also have like, what is it, the post June cuts or whatever, like how they picked up Leno.
Mhm.
So I'm sure they have an eye on that sort of
Who,
thing.
by the way, is still out there. He's recovering from surgery, but I mean, I don't know that I would completely rule out the idea that they don't bring him back.
Yeah. Do any of us think that we won't be adding a veteran left tackle between now and training camp?
I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I just feel like I'm not. It's kind of like we've seen in the past where the fan base is all
Yeah.
jacked up about something, but I don't get the feeling that they're all that worried about it. I did think for a while, because I just heard some rumors that they might go after, that the Jags might move on from Cam Robinson, who's a pretty good left tackle. I think he got suspended last season or for PEDs or something, but pretty good left tackle. And the thought was that the Jags were going to pick a tackle high, and therefore they would trade or release Cam Robinson. But they drafted a guy in the 4th round, and I don't think there's any way they're going to trust Trevor Lawrence's blindside to a 4th round rookie left tackle. So I don't know. I'm sure there's going to be guys. I'm sure there are teams that drafted tackles high that might try to, like, for a cap cut kind of thing between now and the middle of summer, but I just don't know who that would be. I don't want to trade, and I don't know who we would trade. I think it would have to be somebody that was outright released. I don't see us making a big trade for one.
No, I don't either. I see us picking up, if nothing else, veteran depth and a locker room guy. But John, I hope you're right. And I agree with the thought process. Maybe they know something we don't, right? They know what they're going to be running and what they've got.
Yeah.
In terms of adding to the additional bodies, I went into the offseason thinking and predicting on here wrongly that we were going to add a little lightning 3rd down option back. And we really haven't done it. But when I went and looked at our running back room, I found something really interesting about the running backs that we actually have on the roster right now. And I think if we're going to talk about offensive schemes we might be looking at, I'll bring them up again, but remind me to circle around to the running back thing. There's something interesting going on in our running back room.
Okay. Well, one other question I have for the room and everybody before we move on from tackle is, what more could they have done? I mean, I know I keep hearing people talk about tackle, but free agency, Tyron Smith was the biggest name, and I don't know that anybody wants to invest any real money in Tyron Smith. Or if you're paying attention to what they're doing, they weren't going to invest in Tyron Smith. They're doing short veteran contracts, and then they're building what appears to be building for the long term. Tyron Smith is not going to fit into that mold, and chances are I think it's been 4 years since he's played a complete season.
I think the only thing they could have done, Derek, is trade up in the draft to grab a guy that was a suitable starter, and they tried to do.
That's my point. Is from what I understand, they
tried
tried
to do it, and they didn't get any takers.
Right. So I don't know what more they could have even done to try to address it.
Yeah. I also think there's also lots of factors that made it look like the tackles weren't playing great. Because like Bieniemy was pass happy, passing all the time. And then a lot of the pass the pressure was up the middle. Like Gates was getting blown up. Sadiq Charles and Paul a lot of times were getting blown up too. So it's not, I mean, obviously I think we do need to upgrade and tackle, but there's more to it, I think, than just.
Absolutely. And I kind of like, once I heard that they had tried to trade up, I was actually encouraged that they didn't panic and give away too much to sort of make a draft move for a rookie left tackle. I think depending on which draft analysts you believe, there were only maybe 2 or 3 guys that you would have comfortably plugged in as day one starters at left tackle, rookies. So I'm not trading up and giving up a lot of future assets for a guy who might start sometime later in the year. I like the way they're going about building a little bit at a time and trusting that they have a plan to protect the blind side while the kid is learning this year.
If we need to have somebody fill the role of hysterical fan, I'll do that. I'm not saying this because I believe it, but I have heard people talk about, not only did we not find that left tackle for certain, unless Brandon Coleman proves to be that guy, we traded like Matsko, one of the O-line coach who had a reputation for like being able to manufacture magic from almost nothing in terms of talent. And we got a coach who has a reputation for not being a great at least in terms of recent results, not having great results with O-line play. So I think if you're going to be like freaking out about the O-line, that's probably part of the equation, is that it's hard to know what we got in our O-line coach right now. It is, for me.
Mm-hmm. So,
well, I tell you, when we start finding out what kind of offense we're going to be running, maybe we'll know a little bit more about why they see our OL the way they see it, which we can't see yet.
Well, and one other thing I want to double click on, we're literally turning over 50% of this roster. To be able to expect them to rationally address every position in one off season is, I personally think it's unfair. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Did anyone listen to Galdi this morning? We love Al Galdi. He had a stat that I thought was kind of mind blowing. 25% as of this morning, 25% of our roster, forget from last year, forget that they're not on the team anymore. They're out of the NFL. 25, a whole quarter of our roster is not on an NFL team right now. So that tells you, that tells you a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty telling.
All right, Mark, I'm interested in your running back room situation.
Yeah, so I went looking to see, again, I had a vision in my head that they were going to try to go out and try to find a Pacheco kind of player just for a comp.
Do you not think Eckler can fit that mold?
Eckler is he's 5'10", 200. I don't think he's this. I'm looking at the lightning bug kind of back that
Patterson, Chris Patterson.
Yeah, well, little
J.D. McKissick.
Is Lionel James. Remember Lionel James back in the day? Little Train. I'm again painting myself as an old fucker, but so I just went to look to see on the roster who was there because I was curious, and listen just to the numbers and you'll know where I'm going with this. You got B-Rob, who's 6'1", pushing 230, 228. You got Eckler, who's 5'10", 200. You've got Rodriguez, who, by the way, unbeknownst to him, was a legend in South Africa before anybody in this country knew him. But you guys don't know who Rodriguez is. It's 5'11", 224. Jeremy McNichols, who we brought in, a 7-year vet who's been around the league, is 5'9", 205. Michael Wiley, rookie, 6 foot, 215. And he's not quick, but he accelerates. He's got straight line acceleration that's pretty impressive. And Austin Jones, rookie, 5'10", 200. We have nobody under 200 pounds in the backfield. And these are all big, thick running backs with some speed. If that doesn't scream to me the kind of offense we're planning to run early on in year one, we're going to be pounding the ball. This is not going to be this is not going to be 35, 40 drop back passes a
Mm-mm.
game. I flat
Hey,
guarantee you.
Yeah.
Mark, can I segue right off of that? Because
Please.
I also did a little exercise because I think the best evidence we have of what Cliff Kingsbury is going to do on offense is what he's already done on offense. I don't know what else you can look at other than maybe, rumors. So I went back and looked at the Arizona offense from 2019 to 2022, and I won't go through all of it, but they in his first year, and I know before anyone says it, I know Kyler Murray ran the ball, right? Just like Jaden Daniels is going to run the ball. But when you look at the breakdown, I was just curious how often they ran because he's got this air raid spread offense rep. Well, the first season they ran it 41% of the time. The second season they ran it 46% of the time. 45% of the time. The third season, it was almost as 50-50 split, 54% passing, 46% rushing. And then the final year of his tenure there, after Kyler Murray got hurt and Colt McCoy took over, everything went to shit. But I think what you saw was every year they ran the ball more and more, and it was not all Kyler Murray. It was all of the rushing split was heavily. It was not what you would be led to believe by people saying he's air raid. We're going to be pass happy. He definitely values the run, and I think that adds credence to what Mark is talking about.
And I think the other interesting note there with that is, it might have even been Galdi or Hoffman when I was listening to podcasts on the way to the beach. And that was a stark change to what his college offense looked like. Like there was a very noticeable difference in the run pass splits in the NFL than it was in college. So
they did it well, Derek. They got as high as 6th in the NFL in yards
rushing, yeah,
and as high as 11th.
Oh God, who was the running back down there now? It just escaped me. It's a guy. He had a couple good seasons, but he was not.
Yeah, I can't think of his name, but he had two
He had two good seasons,
kind of
but he was not a prolific.
Yeah.
Running back.
So I'm kind of projecting here schematically. We do know that Kingsbury and that the kind of offense that everyone thinks he's going to run, the idea of spreading the field and creating lanes, working the outsides. I like the idea of coupling that with a quarterback on a read option who's got the speed to get outside. So the read option for the D end is going to be, is it B-Rob coming right off my inside shoulder, or am I trying to veer out and take on this quarterback who's fast as hell? So we got power inside, quarterback threat outside, and the throw. I mean, you're going to spread the field, but make the defense honor the inside run with all those big old running backs. I mean, that to me sounds like an offense that can work in the modern era, right? You can still throw the ball because you still have to throw to win now. But if you can power run off of that, you got something.
Kenyon Drake was the guy I couldn't think of. Kenyon Drake, who was 6'1", 216.
Yeah.
Do you guys know how often we ran it in 2023 with Eric Bieniemy's offense?
Percentage of overall snaps?
36% of the time.
I was going to say 34, 35. Yeah.
And
the other thing,
Anthony Lynn too, so he'll have input too in the run game.
The other thing that we is how many. I wonder how many two back sets we're going to see, and then in addition to that, how much of Ben Sinnott is going to play into it because of his versatility. Like he's the kind of guy you can swing back and you can do that almost RPO out of the backfield that we saw with the Griffin, but not as much an emphasis on Daniels keeping the ball, more of the actual handoff and pass, not keep it and run kind of thing. If they want to utilize that just to try to keep, offenses off balance or defenses off balance. And again, you run that kind of an offense, that changes your needs because you're not running a traditional pass pro. You know what I mean? Where you're 7-step drop and you've got to protect the quarterback's blind side for 3 to 4 seconds while he reads the field. you're changing the offense to now mitigate your concerns at left tackle. So maybe there's a reason that they invested on the interior line more than they did on the tackles, because their intention is that ball is going to come out fast and it's going to be out of his hand fast, whether it's a handoff or a throw.
You're
I
mentioning
think
tight
John Bates.
ends.
I think John Bates could factor in a lot more this season than we might be thinking.
I was just gonna say that, John. Derek mentioned the tight end. Sanat's at 250. Bates is 6'6", 260. I'm not sure I knew he was that big. You're looking
And he can block.
Yeah,
you're looking at
blocker.
two. I think you're looking at two tight end sets in addition to the power. Both of these guys can block, and we know Bates is not gonna. He's gonna be the Don Warren, right? He'll get 1 or 2 targets every month, but they
Yeah.
might be big targets. And if Senate turns out he can play at all, he'll get a half a dozen targets a game if on a good week. So yeah, we have a chance to have some beef up there and come at you hard. You're gonna have to honor the run against this team. I'm
Well,
excited.
just to tie a bow
Yeah.
on it also, you were talking about size in the running back room.
Yeah.
I wonder also how much of that is also going to play into pass protection. You know, a guy like Eckler is going to be able to chip and help out a left tackle one-on-one on a defensive end, or the right tackle depending on how the coverage is or how the pass protection alignment is. So that could be another thing about what they're setting up in that running back room, is guys who can play well in pass pro and who can help be, I'm not going to say a sixth lineman, but help in that aspect of the knowing that there are deficiencies along the offensive line.
And
So
guys,
we got.
and
Go ahead.
guys schooled up. And just one last thing, and I'll shut up for a minute. But guys actually schooled in knowing where the hot reads are. You got a young quarterback; he's going to need help when stuff breaks down. He's going to need to know he can count on a running back to be where he's supposed to be, to just to get the ball out, just protection. So these running backs are going to have their heads on straight early on.
So we were talking about Senate being an exciting rookie. We got rookie minicamp coming up, and I can tell you, having covered some rookie minicamps, it's usually not the most exciting. You know, I would say that you can't take a whole lot from rookie minicamp, regardless of how they look. But what do you guys? The media. I heard that the media is going to be it's going to be open to media for 2 of the 3 days. I think maybe the 3rd day the media gets booted out and they held closed practices. But Tony, who are you most looking for? Who's going to be your rookie minicamp crush, do you think, when all is said and done?
Because like you said, it's hard to like really read into it at rookie minicamp. But like, I guess like in passing drills, so if you see like Sandstrom on McCaffrey, something like that would be like exciting to see, just to see our new rookies out there going at it with each other. I would think, and then also just to see Jaden Daniels, working out and passing with our team. And then also I think just like the sheer size of some of these guys, like because like Coleman, like just to see him in person, just to see him, with the Commanders.
I'm going to be curious about Johnny Newton. You guys remember Bobby Wilson from back in the day when we took him at D tackle earlier than anybody thought we were? This was back when they still used to hold training camp up in Carlisle, I think, for maybe Frostburg. But we had remember that?
Yeah.
We had those scrimmages with the Pittsburgh Steelers early on in camps, and in the rookie camp that was a mixed camp with the Steelers. I guess it was one of the Rooneys back then, or one of the front office types after the practice was overheard bitching about, who is that son of a bitch, Bobby Wilson, who was just throwing people around in rookie training camp. That's what I'd like to see from Mr. Newton. We've heard a lot of buildup about what a steal he is. I want to see if he's as advertised.
Yeah, I think I've got Coleman circled, and obviously rookie minicamp's not going to tell you if he's going to be able to be a starter, but outside of Daniels, like he is probably the second most intriguing rookie this year. And what I mean by that is if he hits, that is a home run. You know what I mean? If he ends up being a starting left tackle, like, you want to talk about questions being answered and being answered phenomenally well, is you find your starting left tackle where we found him, and then now you don't have to answer that question going forward. I mean, that's just huge. So I'll be curious to see him and see what the reports are on him, as if he looks explosive and if he looks strong and if he looks like his technical side of things are getting to the NFL level, because I think that's part of the concern with him. He's very versatile. He played guard and tackle in college, but is he going to be able to be a tackle long term in the NFL, or is he more suited to play inside? And which side of the line would we put him on, left or right? And at the end of the day, even if he becomes a starting right tackle, I think it's still a hit of a draft pick. But man, if we found our starting left tackle, man, that's going to be massive towards the building of this team.
Now, how about Adam Peters having the balls to put that out there? He's asked flat out, "What do you think of this kid?" He's a tackle.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's shades of Shanahan's. I'll bet my career on it with John Beck and whatnot. But to put your name on something like that, I was surprised that he did that. So I agree, Derek. I'm really intrigued to see what they see in Coleman.
Yeah,
I'm intrigued by McCaffrey. I just have a feeling that kid can really play, and he's not even close to where he can be when he really gets some NFL experience. So we really needed some wide receiver help, I think, in this draft. And at the point at which we drafted him, I thought they're just not going to do it. They've got other needs, and they're not going to take a wide receiver. So I was really excited when they drafted him, and I just love his attitude. I love, we said on the last pod, the fact that he really wanted to come to Washington, and I just think the sky's the limit for him. I think we're going to see it like the very first season.
He's got an opportunity, because somebody posted on the board today. I think it was on the board. It might have even been on Twitter. I don't remember. But it's McLaurin and it's Dotson, and then it's a wide open opportunity.
He wants it.
Behind that, who wants it? And you could almost argue that Dotson isn't even. It's Terry, and then it's everybody else. Like, what are you going to do, Jahan? To solidify your spot. So he could find himself getting some really meaningful slot snaps very quickly.
Trade for Brandon Ayuk. Is that still a thing out there?
It hasn't been talked about, but I mean, I wouldn't hate it. It just depends on the compensation about what we're shipping out.
Yep.
If you're talking about a first round pick next year, no, I'm not interested. But if you're talking about maybe a third or a fourth or something, I would be hard pressed not to pay attention. Well, we talked a lot on the offense, and before we shut this thing down for the evening, I think that we pretty much know what our starting defense is going to look like, right? We have a pretty good idea of our starting 11. You're going to see rotational pieces, but obviously it's going to be Payne and Allen in the middle. Armstrong's probably going to be one end. You'll see a rotation on the other side. Linebackers I would imagine, are going to be set with some variation of Wagner, Lavu, and Davis, whether we have 2 or 3 on the field. Secondary, I think our safeties are going to be Forrest and Martin. Corner, we didn't really go after anybody for the outside. So as of now, it's going to be Forbes and St. Just, and then probably the kid we just drafted,
Tanner still.
Yeah, in its slot. So I'm curious what you guys think our defense could look like schematically. We talked offense, so I am curious, what do you think our defense could look like?
I have a theory.
What's your theory, Mark?
Adam Peters cut his teeth up in New England and watched Bill Belichick, who arguably, to me, people talk about him as the greatest head coach ever. I'm not sure I buy that. I buy that he's maybe the best defensive coordinator I have ever seen. And Bill Belichick doesn't run a scheme and attack teams with his scheme. Bill Belichick schemes every opponent differently based on what they do. I think looking at what we're building here and the kind of bodies that we're bringing in, I would not be at all surprised to see us kind of do something like that. I think we're going to see something new every week. I think we're going to see 3 and 3 4s. We're going to see 4 3s. We're going to see 5 2s. I think we're going to see packages coming in and out. It might look like a you can't say Chinese fire drill anymore, right? It might look awful at first, and there will be substitution penalties and all that while they're trying to figure it out. But I think once he gets it schemed up and people know what they're supposed to do, we're going to see something different every week. I have a strong feeling about that.
We definitely are going to see more pressure applied or attempted to be applied, because that's what Dan Quinn and Joe Witt Jr. have been doing in Dallas for the last 3 or 4 seasons. So I don't know what that looks like, but I think that you're going to see a lot more blitzing, and I think you're going to see it coming from every angle, not just John Allen. And I'm also curious. I'll just throw this out there. I know he's not going to be a starter, but I want to see what Fedarian Mathis is, and whether he had a lot of hype coming into the draft, and we really haven't seen anything from him. So I don't know if he's another Rivera era bust, or whether there might be a lot more there than we realize. But I'm curious to find out.
He did flash a couple when he's on the field. The rare times he's on the field, he did flash a few times. Well, what a bonus that would be, right? If he turns out to be a guy, like a real legitimate rotational guy.
Yeah. I think we're definitely going to see an aggressive attacking defense, unlike Rivera and JDR, where we just kind of sat back and just accepted whatever the offense did. Because you look at free agency and the draft, they're all like attack dog, like big aggressive players like Lou Vu. That's all he does. He's just always flying around. And then Sandstro and Newton and all the McGee, even the linebacker from Temple they got, like everyone has that similar mentality of just tackling and being aggressive. So I definitely looking forward to that. And then also with Junior and the head coach, they always get the best out of their defensive backs. So I'm looking forward to seeing what they do with the corners and the safeties we already have, and seeing how they can help them elevate their game.
What I heard somebody make a comment, and now I don't even remember who, but they said that Quinn and Witt schemed up in turnovers. Like the guys in Dallas would comment that they knew when there was a play call that this will they had a really good feeling that this is gonna be an interception. It wasn't a fluky thing. It wasn't okay, guy makes a play and now no, they knew based on the alignment what was going to happen. Like they had it in their mind over the course of the play. Like this is going to create a turnover opportunity because this guy's going to do this. This guy's going to do this. This guy's going to do this. Like they were that in tune with scheming up in turnovers.
Did you guys hear Galdi this morning? I think it was this morning. He had the guy coach responsible for the VR system at LSU that Jaden Daniels has been using on, and it was pretty incredible because what the guy was talking about, I was picturing like Madden, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
They actually coded like the defensive sets and the players on a weekly basis for LSU's opponents. So when Jaden Daniels was doing his VR sessions for the game against whatever team they were playing, they were running the defense on opposite him that the team actually has been running that season. So it's at that level of magnitude of like specificity, which I thought was incredible, man. And I have to assume if I'm Adam Peters, I'm like hiring that guy, or I'm going to the company and like bringing someone in-house.
Somebody was saying that they've done that already.
Yeah, I heard that.
I heard that they bought the system or
yeah,
whatever.
he's in.
I know they've done it, but I mean, I hope they're going to do it at that kind of detail level, because that just blew my mind.
And every other NFL team's going to be doing it by next year.
Yeah.
I guarantee you.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. It seems like a no-brainer now, right? It's like, how come we weren't doing this before?
I know we got to get going, but we didn't talk about it at all. So I just want to get a drive-by from you guys. Not that you watched every minute of the NFL draft, but we have not talked one bit about what about the other NFC East teams, like who got better this offseason, specifically in the draft. Philly, the Giants, Dallas. What do you guys think?
Dallas did nothing.
Yeah, I agree. I put Dallas.
The Giants, neighbors strikes fear.
They got Tyler Nubin too. They got the best safety in the draft.
It's my concern. The only thing with neighbors is he's going to have Daniel Jones throwing the ball, so it's going to be dependent on quarterback play. That guy could find his way into the rookie of the year conversation, but it's all going to be dependent on Daniel Jones. And Philly did Philly. They got some big name guys. They got a guy that more than one person on our podcast had circled as a favorite. They always seemed to. They had a record tying 8 draft weekend trades. Moving pieces and doing things. So they beefed up their secondary, right? Didn't they take a corner in the first? They took a corner in the first.
Quentin Mitchell.
They got Quentin Mitchell in the first, and they got Cooper DeJean in the second. So they're going to have a completely new secondary. But to be fair, they got guys that we all liked, but now you're going to be potentially talking about having 2 rookie cornerbacks on the field.
And they blew up their coaching staff.
So there's a lot there's some questions there. They lost Fletcher Cox, right? Didn't he retire?
I think so.
So I don't know. I think Philly got a little bit different. I don't know that I would say they got better. Dallas got worse, and I would say the Giants got more skilled, but I don't know that it really is going to matter yet.
Yeah, I kind of agree because I don't think Neighbors' impact will be as great because of Daniel Jones. Because I like Hyatt, who they got from Tennessee the year before, but Daniel Jones, he just does what he does, except for against us. Yeah.
Hopefully that's amazing.
But the rest of the league, he sucks.
There's actually a lot of pressure on the other 3 teams in our division heading into this year. We got none, right? We're on our maiden voyage, right?
I think that's a big factor.
The Cowboys, they're all in, and it's all on Dak's shoulders. And Philly,
they're all in with nothing. With Zeke Elliott, they didn't do anything.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, there's a big thing. They re-signed Zeke.
In Philadelphia, it's about can the coach recover from last year's disaster, and up in New York, it's all about their quarterback. All 3 of those teams are under the gun. We are not.
Dallas did get Guyton, right? The tackle that we kind of had been curious about.
They got Beebe too. They got Cooper Beebe, who we talked a lot about. They got some players, but I just think with New York, man, it feels like they just can't move on from Jones. It's like a pride thing. They gave him that big, extension, mega money, which everyone in the NFL knows there's no way he's worth the money that he's being paid. But it just feels like because they did that, they just are going to ride him down into the flames and until they absolutely have to admit that he's not an NFL starting quarterback. That's what it feels like. So God bless the New York Giants. I love that.
I was surprised. I thought they were going to take McCarthy. I was prepared to deal with him for the next 10 years.
Yeah, they're like tripling down on Jones, man. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah.
Well, before we sign off, I will say that the Pittsburgh Steelers did the greatest emulation of the BGO Blind Pig podcast draft. This was their draft. Round 1, Troy Fontenot. Round 2, Zach Frazier. Round 3, Roman Wilson. Round 4, Peyton Wilson. Those 4 picks right there, or 3 of those 4 picks, I think we all were kind of excited about. So I'll give the Steelers a little bit of credit. They went old school the way that I think we all kind of wished or had hoped the draft would have fallen in our way. They got 3 starting offensive linemen in their first 5 picks. So, Tony, it's been a pleasure. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys.
And
Tony, if you come back, maybe we'll let you talk more than for like 30 seconds.
Yeah, but not if Paul is on. Then you just good luck.
Yeah, and since I haven't been on in a month, I figured I'd make up for it all in one podcast. Sorry about that.
You got to elbow your way in on this podcast.
Yeah,
'cause
that's
we
right.
talk a lot.
All right. Well, if you're still hanging around with us, thank you for listening. Obviously, you can catch us on YouTube. You can find us in all major streaming platforms for podcasts. Give us a like, a share, a follow, and Twitter, Facebook, all that. And of course at bgobsession.com. All right, boys, it's been a pleasure.
Night, guys.
Yeah, likewise.